back to Soldier Farms. We're getting right into it today. The theme with the YouTube woodworkers that I follow, everyone is doing some turning right now. I didn't own a lathe, so I bought the smallest, cheapest lathe that I could get my hands on. This was about $30 on Temu, and it's good enough for me to learn how to turn on. If I feel like, it's something I want to pursue, I'll get a better lathe. But I wasn't going to go full bore because the lathe, the accessories, the tools to turn with, it all can get expensive really quickly. So I bought my little lathe. I think it's tremendously underpowered, but it's a good place for me to start, and it's very simple to operate. So what I did was I found a piece of walnut that was left over as an offcut from making cutting boards, and my initial thought was to do a pin blank, but I decided not to drill it out, and I just punched holes and screwed the little mandrel that came with the lathe in one end, and took my center punch and punch the other end so to make a divot for the tailstock to ride in. It's the Temu version of a live center. It's got a ball bearing, and the little pointy pokey part just rides in that bearing. And so I thought, when the end tore out where the spindle was, I thought I'd just put it in the chuck. And this little chuck is something I bought as an accessory. It didn't come with the lathe, but it's a 4-jaw self-centering, or supposed to be self-centering, but it's not. So you see me monkeying around with it here, trying to get more length out of this lathe's bed than there actually is. And to do that, it would need to be open on the end. Maybe I'll fiddle with that at some point. Maybe I won't. Probably not. Yeah. I could have drilled it out and, made it work, but I didn't. Decided to just go another route, and I'll get my other center, try to turn between centers. And so I put that up there, loosen up. I go through this operation probably 14 or 15 times until I realize that my little piece of walnut is just really soft, and it's not going to hold up to the forces of turning, even on a little tiny lathe. And it comes with little Allen head screws, and there's a square nut on the screws, and I'm wondering if maybe a wing nut might be better, because occasionally I'll have to actually unclamp, pick up the lathe, hold the nut in place so that it'll grab. And that's, it's a little frustrating to have to go through all the various ministrations just to turn this little spindle. Initially, this project, I spent a half hour trying to square up that walnut the other night, the night of my live. Before I got into doing the live, I was messing around with the lathe. And then, probably half hour today. And of course, I speed up my videos so that you don't have to watch me make my slow slog through figuring things out. But this is every bit as frustrating as it looks. And a little tiny tool rest and the full-size tools were a challenge, but then I did kind of figure out how to use those, make them work. You know, the quality of tools was pretty good for Temu. I mean, they do have the replaceable carbide blades, and they're a standard size, so I can buy domestically made blades, and you know, so that's a good thing. And aside from, you know, just the constant fiddling with the machine itself to get things fit, you know, where they would work, you know, it's fun to turn. I felt like I was picking up on it pretty good, and then here in a minute you'll see this piece of walnut just kind of comes apart on one end and flies out of there. I was glad I was wearing my face shield. The thing does, it turns at high RPMs even on the lowest setting. It's like 1200 RPMs. So when it comes off of there, you know, it's moving. Just starting to get the hang of the tool, and the tool rest came loose. As you can see, as much fiddling around, I've still got a flat spot on there. Yep, there it went. Alright, so I look around, and I was thinking I was just gonna grab something real quick, but those drawers I'm pulling out are on a cabinet. It's got some of my scrap wood in it. And the first thing I grabbed was a 2x2 piece of pine, and I decided not to do the pine because it had knots and things in it, and I didn't figure I wanted to try and navigate that on the day I was learning actually to use my lathe and turn. So I found a piece of cherry, and I measured. Then you'll see here in a minute that I should have measured twice. Chose that opportunity before I cut the piece of cherry to do a little tailstock maintenance there. And we hustle around a little bit, and then we're getting right back to it. Discovered with my little center finder that my piece of cherry wasn't quite square, but was square enough. And so I'm putting that center on, giving it a little tap, and then that's when I discovered it was really kind of too long. For as forgiving as you know, some of these processes are, once you know how to turn, you can't get away from the maximum length of your lathe bed no matter what. So anyway, so I'm getting ready to get right back to it, and you know, just seemed that once I started back with it, this just went so much smoother than it had with the walnut. And maybe it was just somewhere in all of that, some things just kind of synced up together. Then I find that my chuck had slipped a little bit, and I did have a time in here where I had really got to going, and then the motor overheated, and I had to give it a little chance to cool off a little bit. And then it started right back up, and we got right back to business. Alright, there we go. Yeah, it's right in here that it's just starting to get really hot, and so I had to give it a little bit to cool off. And that's why you see me. And then camera goes back for whatever reason I was being a little too ginger with it and forgot to clamp it down. And it vibrates a lot because it's a very light machine. Got a little weight to it. Get the machine out, and for as fast as it spins, it doesn't have much weight to it at all, and it will move all over the place. So I clamped down one end, and here I'm kind of cleaning off the tool. I was afraid of pushing into the material too much and getting a catch. And it's really still kind of too warm, so I gave it a little bit and then got back to it. Of course, my battery was starting to go dead there by that time because I had been monkeying with this for over an hour, and I mean, it's definitely not the fastest machine in the world. I'm sure on a regular lathe you can turn one of these little honey dippers in 5 minutes or less. But I was learning, and I was trying not to get frustrated. And so would I buy the little tiny lathe again? Maybe. It depends. Of course, for double my money, I probably could have got a pretty decent little lathe. It would still be small, probably be underpowered for a lot of things, but I think I'm gonna just keep trying with it. I think my next project, I got myself some long drill bits, and I bought a pack of those Bic stick pins, and so I'll be drilling out a couple of blanks, and then I'll try to do just one of the little Bic stick pins. I have some pin kits also, but I want to, before I get into the expensive stuff, I don't want to do the cheap stuff. And so I'm working on a little handle for my honey dipper, and got my lines on so I can get in and start working on the business end of the honey dipper. And learn how to round that off. But it's going pretty good. Probably gonna move the bolt from my tool rest to the other side, and probably see if I can get a little piece of angle iron or something that I can make myself a full-length tool rest. And there I go to the parting tool, because I was having a little trouble getting in with the skew. There we go. Move my tool rest. getting a little faster at the operation. I mean, you can't really tell because I've sped the video up, but it's becoming a little more intuitive as I go along. But I thought it was going pretty good, and I don't think this turned out bad. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it was an enjoyable process once I got started and, kind of learned what the machine and my limitations are, and, that cautious sort of gray area where you get into the project and it's enjoyable and you still have some safety things you need to look out for even on a lathe this size. But it's coming along and I was pretty happy with it. So I took my parting tool and put the little lines on my handle. Now hunt for some sandpaper because I have so many little odds and ends that I wasn't getting into my emery cloth for this first project and go through all that Dollar Tree sandpaper first. But it's going just fine. It's just a learning process, and I will have to just do a lot more turning and get comfortable with the tool. And we go rounding off the ends a little bit where we cut it. I think it's turned it out just fine. There she is. And that's kind of some B-roll where I'm talking about the lathe. And all right, so there we are.